Hello, awesome friends. It's Lindsay from World Changing Kids, and my pronouns are she and her. And today I just wanted to give a brief introduction to the video you are about to watch. This video is a clip from our 40-minute interview we did with Gever Tulley and the kids in my Upstanders Academy met online with Gever and talked to him about all the awesome things he does. So Gever wrote a book called 50 Dangerous Things You Should Let Your Children Do. He has done multiple TED Talks, which is where I first found him back in like 2010, which you'll see me saying later in the video, so I will not elaborate on that right now. He then went on to start the Tinkering School, which was a camp for kids to just build things and do awesome projects. He does a tinkering lab mail out box of supplies that is also amazing. And then he started the Brightworks school in San Francisco. So Gever just has amazing ideas and philosophies about how we could better teach our children or better let our children learn. I love everything that he works on, and I am so honored that we were able to get him for an interview. This clip actually doesn't have any of the other children asking a question, but I do promise that the kids in the Upstanders Academy do get to ask him questions later. This clip is mostly me talking to Gever and him showing us some super awesome things he's working on. So I will leave it at that for now. I hope you enjoy this and stay tuned for the next clip from this amazing interview. Thank you.
And in the years leading up to starting my summer camp, my wife and I noticed that our friends were constantly like figuring out excuses to call, like to drive through the neighborhood and then give us a call and say, hey, what's going on at your house? And suddenly I'd have 2 or 3 kids in the garage and we would be building together. And that was sort of what made me feel like I had some skill working with kids. But then the thing that really got me to get started with it was one time I was having tea with a friend, and her kid was playing around in the backyard and had picked up a stick, and she quickly jumped up from having tea, leaned out and said, "Remember the rule about sticks?" And the kid dropped the stick. And there was a whole backstory to that incident that I didn't know, but it got me thinking that maybe adults don't give kids enough credit, for what they can really do. So I started, I'm going to take you on a little tour of this room that I'm in because I'm starting a project right now with a bunch of kids. I started my summer camp and had this crazy idea. Where are they? I'm just looking. Oh, there they are. I had this crazy idea that it would be just fine to give kids power tools, and that, if they knew that they could hurt themselves with this tool, they would be more careful with it. So that was where we started. We started with one very simple rule, which was don't hurt yourself or anyone else. And that rule has stayed with us since the very beginning. And we apply it to everything. So you mentioned bullying in your, I can't remember, in your introduction or in your email. And we've had a few bullying incidents at the camp. And the way that we respond as the staff at the camp is to say, I think you might be breaking rule number 1 right here. And then the student has to explain how the situation applies to rule number 1. But would you like to hear what rule number 2 is?
Yes.
Rule number 2 was made by a young student named Harlow, and he was in our 2nd year of camp. And he he kept asking me if he could have a piece of fruit. And I said, Harlow, I think maybe we need a rule that covers this, because I can't just keep saying yes to you. And he was like, all right, what if rule number 2 is if you see a piece of fruit and you want it, you must eat it.
Oh.
So that's rule number 2, so that I
like
never
that
have to answer the question for kids, can I have a piece of fruit?
Right.
Because you get constantly interrupted by kids asking you for a snack or something like that. So we just put food out in the workshop, and if anybody wants it, they eat it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that was all before the virus, so
Right.
you can imagine that might change now.
The world
Mango.
is a bit different.
So we used to have mangoes in the shop, and the shop was a barn, and one side of the barn had goats in it. And we discovered that mango pits are not good for baby goats.
Oh, did you discover that the hard way?
Yeah, well, they get very bad digestive problems from it. It wasn't permanently harmful, but the ranch manager was like trying to figure out what it was they were eating. And one day she saw that the kids were just dropping the pit into the goat pen, which is what she told us to do with all the other food waste we had. And it was the mango pits. Once we stopped dropping those in, the goats returned. By the end of summer, they were all healthy. Everybody's upset stomachs were fixed.
Okay.
And, yeah.
And you learned an important lesson.
And we learned an important lesson, that goats can't eat everything.
Right.
Yeah.
I would not have known that.
Yeah.
Yeah, good to know. Yeah.
Um,
Well, I have to say that I've been following your work since at least 2010.
oh my goodness.
So I found you and I found that TED Talk and I loved it. And then I started reading at the time the Austin Tinkering School blog.
Oh yeah.
So
Cami was
Cami.
amazing. Yeah.
Yes. And then we went to Austin on a family trip and I emailed Cami out of the blue and I said, I don't know, I just want to come talk to you. I don't know what I'm building. I'm building something. I don't know what it is. And that was that many years ago. That was like 10 years ago. Yeah. And so I met with her in her backyard in like 2011.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was back before she took a lease on that giant warehouse and created the Tinkering School empire in Austin.
Yeah. We were just in her backyard. It was amazing.
Yeah. I remember that backyard. She had built with the kids, she had built all those like tree housey things and slides and playground equipment. Speaking of calling people up at random, I have to tell you about the project I'm working on right now.
Okay.
So when I heard that summer camp might be canceled, I got together with some of my students who had been going to summer camp for multiple years, have now become people who work at the summer camp. So, so they spend their summer vacation from school working at the camp. And when I called some of them up and said, hey, it looks like we're not going to be able to have in-person camp this summer, instead of getting very depressed, although there was a moment of kind of like being upset and everybody had to process, but we immediately started to think, to brainstorm various kinds of things that we could do that would work as online camp. And so we have these camps running right now that are based on this box of parts that I sell on Amazon called the Electric Motors Catalyst, which is really great. These camps are doing really well and the kids are really having fun. But one of the things that the kids that I was working with on this idea were really fixated on is, how can you build something bigger than yourself if it has to come to you in a little box? And so we came up with this idea. What if you could spend a week of your summer working on Mars? And so we were just like playing with this idea, like, what could it be like? And we came up with this whole story about this Mars mission where a colony ship is headed to Mars. And before the colony ship gets there, this other ship, which is filled with robots that are going to build the habitat for the colony ship by, they're like programmed to build it. They're going to land first, build the habitat, and then the colony ship gets there a year later. Well, something went wrong with the automated robots. That ship crashed in a crater and it was damaged. The robots tumbled out, but the big brain that was going to organize and do all the work is not working. So these robots are sitting in the crater, but they can't do any real work on their own. So we have to control them from Earth. So we're building right now, I'm going to show you, because my students are all out getting lunch right now, but we're building a giant crater. And this is just part of what we're building. And down there, that piece of cloth is just simulating where we're going to fill in with Martian soil, right? And we're going to put into that crater, this is a prototype I'm about to show you, so don't tell anyone. Actually, it's not a secret, but I'm going to set my computer down so you can see it. There's one of the robots. So this is just a prototype. It's made out of wood and it's all glued together because we just had to figure out a whole bunch of things about it. But right here, you'll see there's a camera. What it's missing are the arms that have the little bulldozer bucket at the front. So you can't see those right now, but those are being manufactured right now by other students. And what'll happen is you'll, just like you're in a Zoom meeting right now, you'll open your laptop and you'll connect to a robot in the Mars crater with 24 kids all in the crater and a couple of our staff. And together we're going to try to build a habitat, safe place for the colony ship that's on its way to this giant crater that we're building in this room. So first we have to build what's essentially a movie set, right? But instead of a script and a movie, it's all work that the kids do together. So yeah, you'll operate a robot to build a crater on Mars.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you'll have to put lots of videos up for us to follow along.
Oh, of course. Of course. Yeah.